DuPont.
Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. It is Monday morning. Divisional weekend is in the books. We have some winners and some losers. I think overall, we as NFL fans are winners. Looking at the championship game slate here, a couple of fun handicaps, some very, very interesting discussions to be had around one of these games where the market is pricing the absence of Pat Mahomes as a non-zero event, even though Andy Reid came out today and said, Pat's going. So, yeah, a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about. Let's start with that Mahomes game and recap a little bit.
Work backwards, or what?
You want to do backwards or forwards?
No, that would be the Cowboys. Oh. No, I mean, let's fuck it. It's the playoffs. Let's do them on order. Let's start with that game because that is maybe, I don't know. No, that is the first game. Damn it.
The first game was Jaguars Chiefs, where our Jaguars.
My brain is. It's.
They had a chance,
Friday.
Andy.
They did have a chance. You never cheer for an
it was
injury,
there for the taking.
When you have that bet and you end up looking like we might have Henny for part of this game, it feels even worse. It's one of those things too where I know I bet on the Jags money line. Obviously not as big. When you bet a 4-1 money line, unless you feel real strong, you're not betting that as big as you normally bet a side or a total. That's a nibble. Like I felt like I was just on a razor's edge the whole time because how do you not have the Americans parlay in as well? So I'm just dying at like this game being close. It's like the Rams 49ers game from a few years ago where we both lost, even though we picked opposite sides. Just waiting to get middled on that parlay, that teaser. But congratulations to the entire world. I won't. If you didn't watch any football yet, close your ears. Spoiler alert: the Eagles covered the other half of that leg, and you got your teaser home. It's one of those things where you can disagree with maybe the numbers, but you can't disagree with the efficiency of the market this late. And what a just a banger gift that every book in the world had to take it. Sort of in the shorts on. I'm curious. I haven't seen any tweets, and I think it's because I don't follow any of the people that tweet that sort of stuff. Like, oh man, the books really cleaned up this, or oh man, the public cleaned up this week. I just I don't have those guys on my timeline unless it's for you, which is the worst part about Twitter right now. But
so
yeah, they were there. And what do you think? What do you think of Trevor in general?
So. I mean, until the late interception, I thought he handled himself very well. I was like, okay, cool. He's in this. This is calm. He's calm. He's cool. He's collected. He was missing some throws, but ultimately, like I was a little through, until the game really kind of came apart at the end. I was more disappointed in Doug and some of his lack of aggressiveness than I was upset with Trevor. I thought Trevor played fine. Ultimately, the two teams basically were at a draw in terms of total yards in yards per play. Jags actually won 5.8 to 5.4. The Jags lost the turnover battle 2-0, and they also could not get a call from the refs to save their lives, particularly a call that would have given them some chunk yardage on offense. It was a low scoring game, even though the Chiefs come out and had just an absolutely impossibly good scripted portion, as you would expect, considering Andy Reid had time to come up with a great script. And then you're like, oh God, is this just going to be one way action? No, Jaguars came back and answered, I thought, brilliantly. And we had ourselves a little ball game. The injury to Mahomes in the moment was like, uh-oh, this is it. Like he could have broken his ankle there. Like this could have been a broken fibula or whatever. And he comes back and then he goes does the blue tent and then into the locker room. And then you're like, oh shit, here we go. The Jags, however, pin the Chiefs at the 1, and Chad Henne matriculated them right down the field for a touchdown.
That's where I gave up hope. I mean, legitimately, that's where I gave up hope.
It's like Jesus Christ. And they bring Mahomes back out weirdly. I didn't really understand why they decided to put him in harm's way, considering at that point Henne was operating fine and you had a nice lead to protect, and you're just obviously going to try to shorten the game at that point anyway. But they put Mahomes back in the game. He did not play great, but he wasn't like it wasn't like problematically bad, because they're still the freaking Chiefs, and he still has Travis Kelce to target whenever freaking feels like it. Travis Kelce, 17 targets in this game, caught 14 balls, 98 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was unstoppable. The moment that I really kind of just crumbled into a puddle and was very, very sad was when Agnew got stopped on the kickoff return, because I was like, oh my God, this is what you need. You needed a chaos play like this where the special teams comes through with the touchdown, and Agnew got tackled by the kicker in very disappointing fashion.
Ooh, yeah.
He only then doubled down on the depression as he amazingly improbably fumbled inside the 10.
I wanted that to be overturned, but I didn't have a lot of hope in that. No, and truthfully, Pacheco was great. The scheme was great. Having Kelce, I mean, everything anyone ever says about why Brock Purdy's successful with the players around him, you can just take all those players and mash them into one, and that's Travis Kelce with the Chiefs. It doesn't matter what's going on. He does so much more than, I mean, obviously, Andy, no shit, he's really good, but he just does so much more than even good tight ends do. And I mean, just crisp route running. He's always finding his way back. He's always on the same page with Mahomes. We talked about that a little in one of the chats. We said, if he can't run, because if Mahomes plays next week and he can't run, that sucks. But also the sack avoidance, that came up. And I couldn't agree more with what I think it was Heck that was talking about that. And it's like, how many plays are you seeing that, like, when you look at Patrick Mahomes highlights, it's not Patrick Mahomes taking a 5-step drop in a clean pocket and making a nice throw. Like, he does a lot of that, but all the highlights are him just working his way around, moving around, feeling pressure, having good pocket presence, extending a play, and then making some throw at a weird, upside down angle where it bounces off 3 helmets and goes to the tight end. Yes, submarine. But
the submarine balls.
So it is a little concerning with some of the sack avoidance and extending plays if he's beat up. And I'm not even going to try to attempt to figure out, because if it's a high ankle sprain for like any running back in the league, and this is week 8, you're like, well, we'll see you in week 13. But the fact that it's a quarterback and it's such a high leverage spot, I have no idea what they're going to try to do with him, with tape, with drugs, with braces, with game plans. It's really hard to speculate. We'll get to that market in a bit, but this game really was lost by the Jaguars defense.
Yes.
I mean, Pacheco, I mean, just, you got to be able to get off the field on third down against either Henne or a hobbled Mahomes. And I know that it's still the Chiefs. There's a lot of good players. There's a lot of good plays, a lot of smart brains in that offensive brain trust, but it was a struggle for me to not throw things a little during that game.
They forced the Chiefs into 2 punts and a field goal to start the second half with Mahomes out there hobbled. They just couldn't really get it going offensively. Some of that was head-scratching decisions by Peterson, who just looked like he didn't really want to make this. Like, he didn't really want to engage the Chiefs into feeling like they were in danger. He just wanted to like kind of hang around and then like hope that he just had the ball last and could score a touchdown and go for 2. And that was like the only way he thought he was going to have a chance to beat these guys, because it really wasn't an aggressive enough play, just an aggressive enough approach, I didn't think. And I also like Hasty, maybe he's a fine player, but like why he was so heavily featured late in the game instead of Etienne was a real weird one. And I don't know, the fumble was just heartbreaking, because I mean, watching it live, I was like, oh, that's coming back. We're going to get a touchdown on this drive, guys. We got this. And I was like, it's not coming back. No, the Chiefs have it. Oh my God. And they got the stop. They got the punt. And then bang, right away again. Blown opportunity in terms of the interception that was thrown right away. So that was a heartbreaker, because the Jags were right there. Now for Jags long term, I mean, presumably you can build on this. Trevor Lawrence is absolutely going to be even better next year with another year of Doug Peterson. Presumably, assuming they can stay healthy and generally keep this core together, I think this is a team that's going to be perennially the best and top rated in the AFC South, considering the state of the other franchises in the AFC South, especially. That said, they are up against the cap. They're going to have to make some cuts, and they squandered a lot of cap space last year in this weird, desperate attempt to be relevant. So it's going to be a little bit of a rocky road, and they now have to navigate the next handful of years, presumably with Trent Baalke not getting fired. So Peterson's going to have to shoot even. He's going to have to even kick even further out, kick his coverage here, because his GM's probably going to continue to put him in difficult spots. The Chiefs move forward now. Their defense did not play a great game. I didn't think. They only got 2 sacks, even though, some of that you can credit the Jags offensive line played well. Some of it was Trevor Lawrence played well. They forced 2 turnovers. One of them was just a phenomenal play. That pick was just excellent skill on display. The fumble was fluky and lucky. And like you said, I thought they were committing some penalties that could have been called in a neutral game, but because it's home field advantage in the playoffs and the Chiefs are your 1 seed, they got a little bit of the benefit of the whistle not being blown, which is fine. Defense was did not look especially sharp, though, I didn't think, for the Chiefs moving forward. And so that makes this matchup interesting because you're going up against the Bengals, who are razor sharp right now. So let's hold off on commentary on Chiefs.
Yeah, final thought. We'll get to both of this week's game at the end. Final thoughts on the Jags, who have a decent core, need some pieces. It'll be interesting to see if they do go defense at 24. I think they're going to be drafting at, because there's a couple corners that might be available. I think that a couple mocks had Ringo or Devon Witherspoon from Illinois. A couple mocks had some pass rush would be helpful as well. There's going to be some D tackles. There's going to be a couple of pass rushers that are available. And it feels like wide receiver is some people are saying wide receiver is a need. We'll see what they do with everything, but also Calvin Ridley's on this team.
I don't think wide receiver not pressing the wide receiver or tight end button. You're sticking with this core and adding Ridley.
The thing they might do is, because there are a bunch of wide receivers that are going to fall in this area, they could presumably trade back for a wide receiver needy team and get some extra picks, because this is kind of the spot where JSN and Addison and a couple of the guys are going to maybe be going. So it'll be interesting to see, but I would like to see them maybe get a shutdown corner. This would be nice.
Yeah, that would be the ideal pick, I think. Okay. The night game was very unremarkable.
Yeah.
Whew.
It actually wasn't.
Turns out I hate when we
do this.
Surprise!
I hate when we have to do this, because we are absolutely NFL fans, but we have every right to say hey, these are bad games. This is a bad game. In the
both the NFC games were bad.
Almost 300 games are played every year. This wasn't a good one. This was below the median, and the Giants, like we said, and boy, it got a little touch and go with my under at the end of the game when the Eagles scored a pretty meaningless touchdown when the Giants had just given up. But to put up 38 and Jalen Hurts to only have 154 yards passing, I think basically anybody who talked about this game, unless they were of the thought process that the Giants are really good and you haven't seen anything yet, but all the reasonable people who talked about hey, the Eagles probably could just run the ball until they're blue in the face and do well with that, they were very, very correct, because just as a team, I'm guessing they averaged probably 5 yards a carry and
6.1.
If not better, 6.1, and your leading rusher for the entire weekend, Kenneth Gainwell. That speaks volumes.
Kenneth Gainwell,
on 12 carries, and it's not like he had a 70-yarder, guys. He had one for 35. That was it. Miles Sanders, obviously. Miles Sanders got his. If you play the Miles Sanders over prop for his rushing yards. He was home at halftime for you guys.
Oh my gosh. Good work by him.
And it did suck for people who took ladders on him because Gainwell took a bunch of his volume. I'm glad he got there for at least the straight
Boston
bet,
Scott and Gainwell got 18 of his carries.
Yeah. I mean,
they were all effective, so it didn't matter.
Hurts and it's funny, like Gainwell, Sanders, Hurts, and Boston Scott were your 4 Philadelphia rushers. 3 of them scored touchdowns.
Yeah.
Sorry if you had Miles Sanders props.
ATD next time.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
No, but you basically gave Sanders the day off. I mean, Sanders got the second half off.
That's the point good. I was leading into. Is that probably benefits you next week when you're playing a much tougher front, a much tougher pass or rush defense. But
AJ Brown didn't really have to do much. Yeah. You really didn't have to ask anything of a lot of your weapons, which was pretty huge. Notable that Lane Johnson looks hurt. He's playing through it, obviously, but he's beat up. Giants, like, just complete failure to take off here. Everything that they looked like they were trying to do in the first half was sniffed out and snuffed out, like, very well, I thought, by the Eagles. You never really want to be down 14-0 and then throw a pick on your second play with your second drive and be like, oh shit, like, now not only have we given them a short field, but we're down 14 points. That's bad. Ultimately that didn't matter because they forced the punt, but 21-0. At 21-0, the Giants are literally thinking, like, how are we getting to 22 points in this game? We are not. So this game is over.
Jones had been pretty ineffective, and suddenly Isaiah Hodgkins isn't your next superstar wide receiver again. If they played, I haven't seen the Giants' schedule. If they do have 17 games against the Vikings, I think he has a case for his long-term contract he wants, but otherwise, Richie James was your leading receiver. I don't have anything against Richie James, and then Saquon. I think we were on the air when he broke his 39-yarder, but his other 8 carries only went for 22. I think he was mostly ineffective outside of that. Just nothing was really working for this team. Yeah. Jones didn't look great. The play calling didn't look great. They gave the ball back twice on turnover on downs. I feel like it was only the one turnover. Just the one turnover. Just that pick.
I love this comment from Sam. Daniel Jones went from the next Josh Allen to a free agent in a matter of 6 days. He went from the next Josh Allen to the next Tyrod Taylor. I don't know if you saw those comparisons flying around today, but people are literally like, oh yeah, he had Tyrod Taylor's season the year Tyrod Taylor took the Bills to the playoffs and lost.
Yeah, the New York Giants have a lot of decisions to make in free agency, as we we kind of touched on what the Jaguars will do next year. The Giants, I feel like it all hinges on the one important position, whether they decide to move on, because it was exciting to get to the playoffs and win a playoff game, but I think it'll be really telling of how they are doing their self-evaluation, what they do with the Daniel Jones, and whether they end up giving him some money or not. So, curious to see how that turns out.
It's a lot of self-evaluation because they put a lot of time and energy into developing the kid, and you decide either, well, if we can do that for him, we can do that for anyone, or you say we sunk that cost into developing him. We need to be the ones that realize the benefit, not some other team, right? So it's a very tough decision.
This is what I've been thinking about this too. I have no idea. I'm not good at like cap and contract stuff. I don't pay attention to that stuff as much, but yeah, the self-evaluation is, man, we got a lot out of Daniel Jones on designed runs. How does Lamar look in this offense?
The problem is you still need so many players. I don't think you can't give away 2 firsts for him. I'm sorry. As good as he would be in that system,
that's what sucks is it's likely going to be a trade.
Yeah, you need too many other things. What's also tough, Andy, if you're the Giants? When you're down 3 scores and the game's barely started, you got like half of the second quarter left, and you go 3 plays for -1 yard and a punt, and then the Eagles march down your throat with 14 plays, 72 yards, 5-minute drive, wipe out the remaining time in the second quarter, and score a touchdown on you. And the game is over at 28-0. I don't think you can really take any of the second half into account in terms of what it means, other than, the times you saw Jalen Hurts operate as a quarterback. He looked more like the Jalen Hurts that was the MVP presumptive winner before he hurt his shoulder than the guy that we were could have seen. So a healthy, like I would just say some of the balls he threw, I thought the ball, like decent touch on them, like a little bit of rust, but nothing that really scared me. So I think Hurts is fine. And I think you got to rate the Eagles as, the team we remember from December, whatever.
Yeah, he seemed fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always worry about coaches lying to me, but he seemed fine. And yes, the best drive the Giants had in the first half was a 8-play, 28-yard drive that ended on a turnover on downs. So good. I mean, the rest of it was 19 yards pick, 9 yards punt, -1 yard punt, 9 yards punt. They followed that up by starting the second half with a 4-yarder with a punt. They had the one nice drive, the 88-yarder that obviously included the long. I think that was where we had a long play. Had to be. Actually, that was a really nice drive. Look at them. You had the Saquon 39-yard run, and then it went punt, downs, end of game. Really rough for the offense, and like we said, not playing Minnesota this week, guys.
Any third down longer than 2 yards, they had no hope.
They were like 5 of 13 on third
which
down.
Goes to say, some of this was Giants offense sucking, but some of it was Eagles defense kicking ass. Like they were everywhere. I felt like
I had the sound on for this, and they did even bring it up, like the rotational effect you can have.
Yeah,
I brought it up yesterday. It's just like just cycling guys in and out. If an offense is struggling and they have to be passing because they're coming from behind, and you can just keep bringing fresh waves. It's like the joke I made in the tennis chat about like just constant waves of teenage Czech girls coming at you. If you're a WTA player, like, oh, here's like 9 more 17-year-old girls from the Czech Republic that are good. Like just waves of them coming
wave after wave of 300-pound guys who are fast on that on that D line. It was nasty. Defensive snap percentages, Andy, you got a good amount. Fletcher Cox only had to play 28 defensive snaps. That is what a luxury. And when Fletcher Cox wasn't out there, you had some Dominican Sue, 29% of snaps. Robert Quinn and Brandon Graham only needed to 31 and 23% of snaps. Jordan Davis, 37% of snaps.
Exactly.
I mean, what an absolute
team going into a home
what
game.
An absolute luxury. Yeah. Your best player on defense was probably Hassan Reddick. He only was out there for 69% of snaps. Josh Sweat looked good. Javon Hargrave was out there for 60. He was your top snap DT. Did Linval Joseph Linval Joseph only got 10 snaps. What is a luxury? You only needed to play Linval Joseph 10 snaps.
Well, how many like 3rd and 1s were there? That's like,
it's true.
Just true rundowns where it's like, all right, bring in the big trucks.
Bring in the big boys.
Linval is also old. If you could play him 15 to 20 steps tops, that'd be great.
You're in good shape, But just an embarrassment of riches in terms of the big bodies they brought in on defense, which I think was huge factor in the game. And rest mattered, home field mattered, and
they played on Saturday instead of Sunday, so they do get one more day than the 49ers this week as well.
Okay, that may be a factor. Let's move on to Sunday's games, which started with a weird one, weird game in Buffalo. First of all, the market was very aggressively betting the over all week, like they knew something we didn't. And the weather was very, very nasty. I did not think that weather was conducive to an over. And yet,
that surprised the shit out of me. Oh, it's snowing.
And yet, Buffalo, I mean, the exact game state you were hoping for if you bet an over, manifest. Cincinnati's first 2 drives, success. Touchdown, not even taking much time off the clock. Now you've put Buffalo in a negative game state. Like, here we fucking go. We're going to take the top off this thing. No, never really happened. Buffalo's offense looked absolutely creaky dead on arrival. And I don't know, man. They were the hot side all week. The over was the hot side all week. People thought Buffalo's offense had some advantage that just never showed up in this game. And I cannot point to it. Everything people have kind of commented on in sort of the wake of this game is kind of more revolving around what Buffalo is from a team building standpoint and who Josh Allen is in terms of how we overrated him. But this just felt like the concepts and the level of play you got across the board just wasn't good at all. And that was weird to see, considering the the absolute apex that they showed you in the playoffs last year, and kind of back that up with some of the play that you got from those guys early this year. Now, we may be making too much of this because like the Bills defense is probably the one that deserves more of the scrutiny than the Bills offense. Like Bills offense
for
still,
sure.
Yeah.
And what was the biggest storyline coming into the game, Drew?
Would DeMar Hamlin be in the locker room?
Although, Jesus Christ, Drew, get your shit together. Like,
there's
there's people with conspiracy theories.
No,
like
the biggest story coming into this game, clearly, and the reason the market was so one-sided Bills was, I thought, largely because of the offensive line issues for the Bengals. But then why did the over get hit so friggin' hard?
I know. I think it probably was with the market really loving the Bills and the over, it felt like, all right, Buffalo's offense gets it done. Cincinnati keeps up with something, in garbage time, or, continues to press them just because they've been able to get away with it, even with a bad O-line. And I had a great conversation. Again, shout out. We did a whole episode on networking, guys.
Yes. Fun episode.
But yeah, it was a fun episode. But two guys and I'm happy, because not everyone's on Twitter all the time, but one of them was in the chat and the other one immediately answered. But we're in a chat with two former Division I offensive linemen, Jacob and what is it, Eric? Yes, Eric.
Eric and Jake. Yes,
Eric and Jacob, great guys. They are a wealth of knowledge when it comes to trench talk. And I asked them about that because somebody brought it up, and a couple people, and they even mentioned it on the broadcast. Maybe I feel like somebody on TV said it, that that the offensive line has an advantage when it's snowy and slippery like this. And that's the one guy joked. He's like, yeah, my best game ever was because it was slippery and snowy out. He's like, you look great because your feet aren't moving very high. You're just kind of shuffling around, and they gotta take the long way around you. And it's like, if they're slipping, it's really going to give you a massive advantage. And I don't want to make excuses for the Bills defense because I've been on them all year as like, hey, this isn't a great defense, especially in the back end, but I did expect the pass rush to play a little better. And for sure the pass rush was pretty innate. I mean, they got one sack. I should check pressure rate compared to what they actually got. So it
didn't ever feel
like it was a thing. Yeah, they got 8 quarterback hits. No, excuse me, that was the Bengals. The Bills got 3 quarterback hits. Yeah, there was just no pressure from the Buffalo defensive line. So it made the missing offensive lineman almost a moot point. And really, the fact is, you got a lot out of the offensive line in the run blocking schemes as well. Mixon had like a game. We don't get to say that often, and you have a wealth of talent in the offensive side. Like, if you can keep Joe Burrow from getting pressured, which God bless the snow for giving him assist in that, he's very good. Like, I don't ever want to take anything away from him, and he's very good with he has a true number one receiver, and then like 4 other guys that, I don't know, pretty good route runners, pretty good at finding their way open. And boom, 27-10, guys.
Yeah, the game felt like it was over in, I would say, the sequence that ended the first half, right? Like 14-0, Bengals punt, Buffalo has the ball, and sorry, man, I got that. Why? Oh, thank God. Sorry. I had a popular Java applet that gives you odds open, and I forgot to mute it. And it was being very annoying as games started.
Oh,
but we're good. But we're good.
It's college basketball time.
Yeah, started. Okay. The touchdown, 14-7, that helped close the gap. And at that point, you're thinking, okay, this is now going to be a really good game. This is, we're here we go. The Bengals come back and they marched surprisingly, and it was ultimately a field goal because that was the one where they take the touchdown off the board for Chase in that drive. I think that was the one. They ended up with a field goal after it looked like 21-7, but it was only 17-7. And actually, I was mad that they took the touchdown. So like, man, shoot, if it's 21-7, if the Bills get another points here, you're just going to get such a big second half total. It's going to be the best under of the day. And ultimately, it was still an under second half play, but not quite as big a number. So I didn't quite get as loosey goosey there. But the Bengals only come away with the field goal there, 10-point lead. And if the Bills answer with 2 minutes to go and score and make it a game, then we probably see a very different outcome. But instead, they got to Cincinnati territory, and it was an incomplete, and an incomplete. They all looked, but there was one play batted at the line, one play they got a holding penalty, so it would have neutralized it anyway. One drop, I think, by Singletary. But the Bills, just offensive skill position players, weren't sharp all game. A lot of drops. They looked more uncomfortable in the weather than Cincinnati's team did. So after that, it really just never felt like the Bills had a spark.
When did I bring this up? The Joe Burrow interview. Maybe it was on one of the halftimes where he said, "Hey, I'm willing to hold the ball a little longer on a third down if we're not in field goal position. Like, if I get sacked on a 3rd and 8, so be it. What's 6 yards longer to punt the ball in a spot like that? Like, I need to be more aggressive in those spots and get us a new set of downs." It was in an interview he gave, God knows when. I saw it on like TikTok, guys. You just never know when that shit's from. Mm-hmm. But it really stuck with me, and that's kind of the thing. Like, if you can get them into 3rd and long and really get a free rush at him against a bad line, and he is the kind of guy who holds the ball a little longer, you're gonna be in good shape. But
sure,
this was a team that they converted 2 3rd and 10. Half of their 3rd down conversions were it was 2 10s and a 7. Like, they kind of got their 3rd and longs, and I think a lot of that was the ineffectualness. Boy, that's in it.
Ineffectiveness.
Efficacy. What was the word we used a lot when we were talking about
efficacy?
Efficacies. Anti-efficacy. That is not a word, but the lack of effectiveness from the
inefficacy.
Inefficacy. I don't know if that's a word. We're going to check into that. We'll get back to you after these games, but that was a big part. Like, you convert those third downs.
Is a word.
And really,
failure to produce the desired effect.
They were kind of bad on some of the short downs, and the Bills were actually a little lucky in some of the goal-to-go situations where they kicked a couple field goals. So Bills could have lost by more here, and a lot of that was on the defense.
They could have lost by more. I did not like. I don't really even want to touch this third rail.
Oh God,
the reffing was pretty lopsided. He'd favor the Bengals. Am I crazy?
No, it felt like every game was pretty lopsided this whole goddamn
weekend. Yeah, it did.
And to be fair, it didn't matter in the Eagles game. That wasn't going to go the other way no matter what. But the Jaguars got a really tough whistle. The Bengals game was pretty one-sided, and I don't know, maybe the final game wasn't too bad.
Do you think there was the refs had, their radar up for some of the kind of high profile, widely shared, loud stuff that was going on about the refs in this game? Like, did they overcompensate because of their radar was up?
You think Sheffers?
It's not impossible, right?
You think Sheffers has TikTok? I bet somebody shares it with him. Like, look what.
It's not impossible.
He's like, look what this guy's saying about you, Carl. And Carl's like, does he dye his mustache? What is going on? And Sheffers is just confused.
No, I mean, did you think that there was 1% possibility that there was overcompensation for the situation?
No.
Okay.
He is.
Bill's got a tough man. Bill's got a tough one.
Speaking of favorite, he is your favorite to be the Super Bowl ref, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's widely regarded, and he has a long history of.
The league's going to do him that solid, even after they have to now refund all of the neutral ticket sales, Andy?
That was the most. All right, let's talk about it. That was such a bizarre take, dude. Has anyone
actually where I want to go next? Go ahead. Yeah.
Has anyone ever heard of a little league called the National Basketball Association? I know
of course.
It's not as old as some of the other leagues.
Surely.
How about and I know I shit on this all the time, but the National Hockey League?
Yes.
Dude, I obviously, so I went to a Timberwolves game. I can say this because I looked at tickets for this last time.
Sure.
You can buy tickets for Game 7.
Yeah.
Before any games are played. People do it every year in probably every single series played, guys.
Of course.
In every hockey series, every basketball series, because it's just a free roll where if we don't make it that far, I get my money back. If they make it that far, I'm going to a Game 7, which is awesome. It's so wild that was a talking point, dude. Like, yeah, people, those are people, first off, they have money. They have disposable income because they're already season ticket holders.
Of course.
So it's not like people were selling their kidneys to buy tickets. I mean, for sure, this was, some people that had the cash to spend and were excited about, hey, let's take a trip to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And it's wild that was even a talking point.
This is the part that I'm concerned about or want to understand better. And they interviewed the coach after. They interviewed Burrow after. And honestly, if you do a little reading between the lines to the answering the questions about the selling of neutral tickets with the Bengals, it literally it did. They would it was pretty clear that the coaching staff used the fact that they sold those tickets as a means of motivating the players. Okay. Yeah. That's insane. It's truly insane because the Bengals, of course, fucking sold tickets in case they hosted the Jags. People bought tickets for the Jags-Bengals game. So this is common practice. This is not anything that you can really get your panties in a bunch over. And the fact that they used it as a motivational angle instead of, hey, go win and we get to go to the AFC Championship game. That should be motivation enough. Yeah, why in the world do you need to have an axe about the tickets? What is going on? What is wrong with these people?
Yeah, no, I mean, and Ava half points out a glaring flaw in the Bengals run.
Yes.
How are they going to motivate themselves?
I know.
Week? I mean, all they have to play for is to go to a second.
There's probably some Chiefs fans that bought Super Bowl tickets, Andy. Yeah. And gosh, they're going to have to sell them on.
They need to get Kirby down there. Now. they need to get Kirby up from Georgia. Talking about because actually, this is a team maybe some people didn't believe in this year.
Oh, of course. Not us. I can't wait to hear the clip of what we said on the Bengals. We saved that one for the bitter end, and that was one of my hottest takes of people are underrated. The Bengals
KC barbecue. I'm legitimately. I think I'm going to go. As producer and Dan and I were talking about that, and he has a trip to a city that's well known for food. And he's excited about. I looked at where the World Cup locations are for when North America hosts it.
Yes.
I think there's a closer location, but I think I'm going to try to go to a game in Kansas City just
awesome.
Because it's like fuck, dude, you're gonna eat barbecue for 2 days too.
Good time. Yeah, absolutely great time.
It's a great city.
And you know what? Down there. Not even the Bengals are going to defend Skyline Chili, so that's not even. That's not a motivating. That's not.
I've been to Cincinnati. I looked at some.
Yeah.
I looked at it. I didn't order it.
Yeah, comparing Skyline Chili and Kansas City barbecue is literally like, oh wow, really? I didn't know that.
Maybe I need to scout it out in April.
Yeah, that comp is literally like saying Daniel Jones is a better quarterback than Pat Mahomes. Like nobody's buying. No, that doesn't even have realistic that doesn't land in any way, shape, or form. So.
I would probably eat it and be fine with it because it's just like spaghetti, man.
It is. It's basically meat sauce with weird chili powder. Anyway, the motivating thing about the tickets really I was literally just scratching my head like these guys have been to the Super Bowl last year and they needed this extra chip on their shoulder in order to go play hard. Like what the hell's wrong with them? It was just bizarre. Anyway. Buffalo Bills season is over. Josh Allen doing some serious soul searching. I mean, the way that the offense, the way that the difference in the peak of the offense for the Bills when they were humming this season versus what we saw down the stretch was pretty noticeable. And they peaked too early. And they never developed Gabe Davis, or at least Gabe Davis never really learned how to catch in difficult conditions. They never developed a running game, even though they have now put a lot of draft equity and a lot of, kind of team building and resources into that running game, and it's not working. The offensive line got worse as the season progressed. Josh Allen clearly had issues with his elbow and his delivery and his accuracy after he sprained his UCL and called his own number and played through it.
Yeah, you wonder about how much
Sean
he was
McDermott.
carrying.
Oh, by the way, Sean McDermott was awful yesterday. his in-game decision making and just sort of the way he called that game, I hated it.
There were like 3 or 4 awful coaches.
We're about to get to 2 of them.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 are in the same game.
2 are in the same game. Yeah.
McDermott was bad. Leslie Frazier, the fact that he's getting a lot of steam to get a coaching job again.
I mean, if I'm the Bills, I'm literally like begging a team to take him off my hands because you get comp for that, and you get to potentially.
That is the wildest thing. Yeah. You do get like an extra draft pick because you developed. Does it count though? Because he's already been a head coach with the. What's the head? Yeah, he was a head coach in Minnesota. I'm not so sure you get the developing minority coach thing, which the 49ers got an extra draft pick for Mike McDaniel, getting to be a head coach down in Miami. So maybe that's a thing, but he's kind of in the Dan Quinn mold for me. Like Leslie Frazier's probably a pretty good defensive coordinator, and this defense took some hits and some injuries, and I thought he did an okay job. But man, I don't want him as my head coach. Yeah, and the most hilarious thing is, as long as we're on this, is that the Broncos are just going right back down the Vic Fangio path.
It's weird.
They're talking heavily about I think their backup plan for not getting Sean Payton is
Vic
absolutely it's Vic Fangio.
Bring him back
in the form of Dan Quinn.
Yes,
it's the same thing, guys. How bad did that work? I think, though, we hired an offensive guy. It didn't work. Well, you hired a defensive guy before that didn't work. And, you hired an offensive guy before that didn't work. And maybe just you haven't been able to find a good coach since, Jesus, somebody's dad? God, that's been a while. How old are we? Speaking of that family.
Speaking of that family. Do you have any more thoughts on Cincinnati? Yeah.
Cincinnati we'll see how the pass rush is. We'll see how the pass rush is able to get after him this week. We'll see what the weather's like in KC. Quick take on Buffalo offseason. I've already seen rumors of them looking at possibly shoring up the backfield. After drafting a running back, they're linked with Josh Jacobs. I think that's the wrong way to spend money. So if that window's closing, that might be closing quicker.
Turns out that the guy in New York was the guy with making the right decisions, apparently, and Brandon Beane is not the guy. I mean, Sean McDermott's performance yesterday was bad. Did not like the way that he called that game. Ken Dorsey also, his offensive scheme really did not develop the way you need. You need an arc. You need to continue to improve. And they just didn't have it anyway.
And I didn't mention Dable too. As much as we've been on him for being a really good coach, everybody did a poor job for the Giants.
Yeah,
I know it was a tough test, guys. You got to give him
congratulations if you voted Dable over Sirianni Coach of the Year, though. Great job.
Coach of the Year came up in the chat a little earlier. Did you hear? I had whatever game was on Fox. They go to the 9-man desk or whatever, and there's JB is Kyle Shanahan done a heck of a job. He's probably not getting any votes for Coach of the Year, but maybe he should. He's like,
what?
So JB does not bet at any offshore. He's like second favorite. I'm sure he gets some votes.
I think he's the favorite.
I think he might be the favorite.
He should be the favorite. From what I've tallied so far, I think he's going to win.
I think he'll win too, but at the same time, I also have no fucking idea.
I don't either. It's going to be a very close call. I just am still a little bent out of shape that Sirianni is not getting credit for being, coaching the best team. Anyway,
the nightcap, the final game of divisional weekend was
another bad one. But it was a fun bad one. It was a fun bad game. I thought. Are you with me on that? It was bad. The Giants Eagles game was bad. I thought the Cowboys Niners game was fun bad. What do you think?
So I told Dan this story this morning. You know how some sports books you click the bet and it places the bet, and some sports books you have to hit 2 buttons. You have to click the bet and then it shows it to you and you hit confirm.
Yes.
I made the decision Friday, and I said my brain might be broken. I don't think the Cowboys do much in this game. And I bet the Niners 3.5 for a normal size, a full size bet.
Yes.
I swung at it. And I was looking at futures, and it was the Bruce Boudreau thing finally cashed. but I had some other bets on like the Dallas coach, and I was just going to triple check those for the amount so I could grade those losers. And I went into that account and the balance was off and I looked and I'd never put the bet in on the Niners. So no, Drew, this is Sunday morning.
Oh, okay.
So like
it moved to 4, I thought.
Like, did we have the Boudreaux firing yet? I think I was just checking on those because it was like I was getting DMs like it's happening. So I was like, all right, I got to see what the actual amount I'm going to win, offsetting the DJ, whatever the hell it is, counts bets, because those are smaller, which was nice. But I go look and the bet was not placed. So it's not a book I log in too much. So I did end up putting the bet in.
Okay, good.
But that is one of the worst feelings is betting. The worst feeling in betting is accidentally betting the wrong side when you're right. If you messed up when you put it in.
Sure.
The second worst is thinking you'd put a bet in, going and checking, and it never got placed.
Yeah.
I would have been
the best feeling.
I would have been owly.
Yeah.
And they were back at 3.5.
Something like, you got the price you initially wanted.
I paid a little extra, which pissed me off, but I was bound and determined to bet it.
Okay. The best feeling in betting is when you feel like Daniel Medvedev is going to absolutely destroy Sebastian Korda. I'm going to play the under, and then he loses 0-3, and you win your bet for being exactly wrong. The most wrong you could possibly have been. That is the best feeling.
One of the most fun ways to fuck up and still win is absolutely tennis. Like,
it's the best.
Once the 8-1 underdog wins the first set 6-4, you're like, I need the other guy to quit playing pretty badly now.
Please quit, please. Not like withdraw, not retire, but don't try. All right. Well, let's talk about the last game. So this was a hot mess from before the kickoff because of the Maher stuff in the pregame. So much attention on a kicker and his ability to make extra points. It was insane. And then for it to end with the first touchdown getting blocked extra point was just... The scriptwriters really deserved a raise for that one. Well done.
To be fair,
if it hadn't been blocked,
do you think that was ever going to go through?
No,
it was pretty shanky.
No. Would it have been more mentally incapacitating if he had seen it not go through, or was it's just as insane to see it get blocked?
So that part was funny, and I was thinking, I'm like, God, if I'm a really shady bookmaker. I'm
not
saying, no, that doesn't count.
No,
he has to miss an extra point.
The extra point, not get blocked. Yeah, of course. Yeah, house rules.
House rules, guys.
Which I just wrote for these kind of exotic props. It was an uneven start to the game. I had an over. I felt terrible about it after 3 minutes. I was like, oh shit. Neither of these quarterbacks has it today. And then sure enough, on the fourth drive, Dak just throws a hellacious interception. I mean, hellaciously bad, the first one.
The one to the left side of the
the one to the left side.
Kind of backwards.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I mean, even when the announcers are like, well, he should never have even thought about throwing that ball. It's like, no.
Yes. And when that happened, I was like, okay, maybe we get some scoring now. No, field goal. And I was like, oh, Christ. So it's going to be like this. Touchdown and the blocked extra point. It's like, okay, we're going to do this 6 points at a time. This is going to take all day. Never going to get there. We are screwed. There was a second interception in the first half that took points off the board for the Cowboys, if I remember correctly. It was the end zone or near the end zone.
It was the play after your better running back snapped his ankle in half.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So that it went from bad to worse to, oh my God, for Cowboys fans, backers, Skip Bayless, Yankees fans, whatever. That joke is all over Twitter. Like I guess it's Lakers.
Poor Yankees fans.
Which the Lakers did have a wild ass comeback, which is something. But no, it was a really bad 2 minutes for the Cowboys because they were knocking on the door and they just lost a big part of their offense. And then he throws just not a back-breaking pick because we saw conservative
It
Shanahan.
was a game swinging pick though, because if that
But
drive ends in a touchdown and you're up 13-6 at halftime instead of down 9-6, that's a big difference. That changes a lot of the way that you, and then you're getting the ball first in the second half. So that was a big swing and win probability, and there was really no excuse.
Oh yeah, it
for
was
that one
massive.
either.
It wasn't the end of the game because the Niners were just not being very aggressive whatsoever. But it was obviously massive to throw. I mean, it threw away at least 3 points, which
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say that. Although Maher was pretty accurate on his field goals. I don't know if that's a different setup or what.
My takeaways at halftime were Shanahan was being extremely conservative. He had no right to be conservative either, because as anyone knows who was watching, Trent Williams, man, he neutralized Micah Parsons. Like, it was not that hard. It was a very impressive performance by Trent Williams. Brock Purdy had all kinds of time. Some of the other guys were getting beat. I think Purdy got sacked 2 or 3 times in the first half. But really, there was no reason for the Niners offense to be that conservative in their play calling, play sequencing decisions to punt versus go for it. Like a 7-play drive where you move the ball 44 yards and you get to, the Dallas 39 on 1st and 10. The call sequencing there was really, really, really suspect. I didn't get it. And you didn't put yourself in a position where you were even like, it was clear you weren't even thinking about going for it on 4th down. You were determined to pin the Cowboys, and there was a lot of just that sort of ethos in the way Shanahan called the game. And I hated it. I did not like it at all. And then Mike McCarthy one-ups you in the second half by being even stupider. The decision to punt from the San Francisco 40 on 4th and 5, which came after, by the way, Prescott making a deep pass attempt to CD Lamb, again shows McCarthy's inability to understand how you effectively manage a game. Like, what does Nick Sirianni do in that situation on 3rd and 5, Andy? He probably runs it. He probably is like, you know what? Get me 2-3 yards because we're going for it on 4th. We might as well make it easier.
Yeah.
Instead, they do the deep pass to Lamb, which was incomplete, and then
I think punt
it on 4th.
There's this weird, there's this weird advantage to, and we say this all the time with play calling and play sequencing, is what works. Disguise what you're doing. Outthink them. Do something that they don't think you're going to do based on the formation.
Break your tendencies. Find CDV. Pick it up. Yeah.
And that's where we dog on teams for running on 2nd and 10 because it usually isn't great. But there is something to be said on like 3rd and 5, 6, 7, where you put a formation out there with like 3 wideouts.
Mm-hmm.
You split a tight end out or something, and it looks like you're clearly, because it's such a passing down for so many people, and you run the ball because you're comfortable with going for it on 4th when you're in that spot of the field. And a lot of times those runs just get a 1st down because it's a light box.
Surprise. Yeah, you're surprising them.
Maybe some linebackers are playing a little deeper. Your safety's back. Like it really does kind of give you an advantage in some spots. Yeah, I think Sirianni for sure runs that. And was Shanahan not aggressive enough when your kicker outscored Dallas though? 13-12, guys.
It's true.
Thank God for Robbie Gould. He was great.
He was very good.
Lucky you have a good kicker if you're going to play that kind of game. I don't think it's going to work next week on the road, though.
No, thank God for George Kittle. He had the game sealing play.
Pretty big catch.
Yeah, the bobbled catch, which I mean, if you want to get on his ass for bobbling in the first place, that maybe that's worth it. But then hauling it in was huge. Getting that team in position to score the easy touchdown was huge. And that drive, it felt like, was all Kittle. He had a nice matchup. They should have gone to that more. They could have done that more. I don't know why they waited so long to even bother with that. There was one play that was pretty rough from a officiating standpoint on that drive, and it was the 3rd and 8 Brock Purdy sack, which got neutralized by a 5-yard defensive holding penalty that set the Niners up on the 15-yard line, which they then got another holding penalty and then ran in the 2-yard touchdown for McCaffrey. Overall, I didn't think the officiating mattered much, but that one was weirdly like specifically injuring to the Cowboys in a game where it was not going to take a ton of points to win, and gave the Niners the easy advantage. The two interceptions were bad for Dak, but
oh my god, we hadn't even got to this.
Nothing compares to the end of the game.
The amount of fuck-uppery at the end of the game by both teams on the sidelines. Excuse me. Elijah
Mitchell runs out of bounds after getting what looked like, you see him get that first down. You're like, game over.
Game.
That's it. Game. But so then he scampers out of bounds.
And it wasn't like he got pushed hard out of bounds. I mean, he just trotted out of bounds. Like that was. Yeah. You've got to be more aware there. And then who was the receiver who was lazy for? And I really doubt
Dalton
the Cowboys.
Schultz.
Was it Schultz? I hate
Schultz. Yeah. It was Schultz.
I love him, but
he let himself get pushed backwards out of bounds instead of fighting for yardage, which would have stopped the clock instead of putting them in just absolute hell. They had 45 seconds at the end of the game. 45 seconds. Yeah.
Well, not only that, but then he got lazy on the catch where
didn't drag his toe.
I mean, that leg just swung right out of bounds. Like Schultz really made up for the running back going out of bounds there by just messing up everything possible on the
two completely brain dead plays. Absolutely. The thing I wanted to say though is we got cheated as fans of football.
From two fun offenses that should have been fun.
And from the 7-point game being closed to a 6-point game with a touchdown as time expires, and then seeing Brett Maher trot out to kick the game-tying extra point.
Oh my God.
That would have been probably the most fun thing that we would have had all football season.
So you made a joke.
We didn't get to see it.
You made a joke a couple weeks ago about, and this was, I can never remember which one's a metaphor and which one's a simile. It's a metaphor because it didn't use the word like or as. But you said Brock Purdy was going to shit his pants. And that was, you were saying that metaphorically. You meant he was going to have a bad game. I think Brett Maher might have literally pooed a little if he got put in that situation. Like, maybe not like a full shit, but just like a little, or maybe it would have been a number one, like just a little pee down your leg, like when you're really scared. Because I mean, just any kicker in that position, now that it's not a gimme from the two, has got to be thinking about it a little. But to be in full yip mode, having had one blocked already, and I know he made the field goals, which helped a little, but Christ on a bicycle. What a situation for him. And as a Niners -3.5 backer, I would have felt horrible about it. I said they win by one here. This is this is something. Oh my God. So and truthfully too, and we're not even getting I poo-pooed the last play on Twitter, and somebody pointed out like
this is a very scat-heavy episode.
Yeah, it's very scatological references left and right. But like seeing Zeke get laid out as maybe his last play, as a Cowboy would have been funny. But I like that they had something. So I will say something nice about the Cowboys. I like that they had something ready.
Sure.
So many teams don't seem to have a play ready for a very extreme situation, but it's a situation where you can't just give up.
End of your season,
It's the end of the season. I love that they had something ready. Wasn't really well thought out. You needed to give
was weak.
People needed to get more time to get down the field, and you can't do that with only Zeke as your
center,
your pass rush,
as your center.
As your center, and he did get fucking paid.
He got blitzed.
And honestly, Turpin got hit hard. The best. Rewatch that, guys. If you rewatch that, Turpin gets hit, he lands on the ground, then he does this quick, like he thinks he might still.
He's been on the ground for a while, and then he tries to lateral.
And we had a little bit on that second half over. I'm pulling like 10%. We get a pitchy touchdown.
That would have been nice. Yeah, that would have been nice.
That would have been pretty. That would have been pretty funny.
Pretty slick.
But no, I give them kudos for having something ready, but it wasn't a great play. And I did want to give credit to the Cowboys offense, at least from an offensive line standpoint. I think Dak got sacked on the second to last drive for like a 0 yards. Yeah, it was a 0-yard sack on 3rd and 10 where he had to take off. That was the only sack. Dak was good in the pocket, and the offensive line was doing a decent enough job to protect him against a team I thought would have better success, with their pass rush. So kudos to that. It was just kind of bad play calling by both teams. And
both coaches were awful.
I did put some money on this over right before the game. I just couldn't fathom why it wasn't taking more steam. So I'm like, well, I'll take a bad number. I don't care. It didn't matter what number you got.
No, it did not. All right, let's talk about the championship game weekend. First game is in Philly. I wish these were flip-flopped. And I don't understand. Oh, yeah. The Cincy game was first last year, right? Rams and Niners was second. I wish these games were oppo. It's a higher profile, of course, for the Bengals and Chiefs. In fact, a lot of people might even argue that's like your de facto Super Bowl, effectively. But Niners Philly is going to be a good game. I'm excited to see these two teams play. Basically, neither of these teams has really played anyone. And I think it's fair to rate the Eagles as you would have rated them when they were at full strength at the end of November, beginning of December. I think it is fair to expect that Brock Purdy has one more very difficult test to pass, which is go into a playoff environment on the road and be as poised as you've been in the comfortable confines of the field of genes. And I think generally the market was a little shy, particularly on the open, for Philly. I made 2 bets already for this week. One was a good bet and one was a bad bet. The good bet I bet was the Philly money line minus 125. The bad one I bet was Chiefs minus 119 on the money line, which you can now get for much better than that.
Yeah, since he's out to 2 at some places.
Yeah. At this point, I'm ready to just throw my hands up and say, let's go. Let's fucking go, Chad Henne.
So I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to use Purdy as the example. But truthfully, you could go 18 games deep and talk about the Eagles in this sense too, because the Eagles did end up with a pretty softish schedule.
Oh yeah.
And obviously it didn't matter in the long run. They could miss their quarterback for a few weeks. He could be halfway injured in the last game. They ended up playing the Giants backups, which was something, but it can really, really, really be said that Brock Purdy has not played much as far as competition. Like the end of the season, even into the playoffs, he's had it's the Glass Joe Von Kaiser Piston Honda Don Flamenco stretch. Like we're not even at like Soda Popinski yet.
What a great comp.
Yeah, I mean it's
You're
really
not
like
even at Soda Popinski. Yeah.
It feels like it's building up to like the second time you take on Piston Honda, and still like this is not Tyson yet, but this is a big test because they've had a pretty safe, easy path so far in the Brock Purdy era, what have you. So this will be very telling, not only from Brock Purdy, but from Shanahan, knowing like, hey, he has to have some reflection, which Dan might disagree that Shanahan has any self-reflection about going conservative in big games, because maybe he just doesn't realize that's the thing he does. But if he has
he's the only person on earth that doesn't know that.
Any sort of look back at this game, he has to know, like, I almost cost the team this game. And they have to be much more aggressive against the best team left in the NFC for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be super interesting. I don't know if I'm gonna bet this game.
No obvious matchup advantages for either team that I could tell you, other than if you get good pass pro for Philly, you should be able to really make them hurt in the, particularly with your speed, which means I think AJ Brown, Devontae Smith are where you're trying to get the most heavily involved here in this game. Now, if you don't get good pass pro, then it doesn't matter Hurts might be running for his life and he might look bad. I lean under here as well. I haven't played the total. 45.5 is a point high by my numbers. I expected a 44.5 here. And a lot of that is because if Brock Purdy comes out and is slinging the football and playing great in this environment, I mean, I'll pay to see it. I will. And I've been paying to see Brock Purdy do incredibly impossible things all last 2 months. And the beat goes on. Show me that you can perform in this environment, and I will take my loss.
If anything positive can come of Brock Purdy doing this, you're crushing it on TikTok right now.
Oh, good. People are a lot of feedback for Brock Purdy hate.
Yeah, we don't read the comments. Like there's no sense in reading those right now. People are just, no matter what you say good or bad about a team, people are just going to be mean and say the opposite anyway.
Yeah, well, this time of year, the fandom takes over, and there's no sense trying to argue with a fan of a team that their team doesn't have, they are so convinced of the perfection that their team brings to the field every given day that they can't see objectively. And
I live here in Minnesota. I mean, there were some really hot takes around these parts about how they just won all those games by accident. Like they're not good. I'm like, they might not be.
The Philadelphia Eagles, by my numbers, have a 61% chance to win this game. I think the fair price is Philly -3 flat, and I think anything better than that is a plus EV bet on the Eagles. I've staked my position. I don't know that I'm going to end up double dipping unless we get some kind of weird information about the Niners' health for skill position players. And I'm not even really that worried about McCaffrey, but if McCaffrey and Mitchell aren't practicing and Debo doesn't look great, then all of a sudden, they have even less, they have even less skill to be able to take the top off of the Philly D. Philly's D has been just impressive. They're just an impressive unit at full strength, and they're at full strength. And I don't know, at home with the energy of that crowd, it's going to be cool. I'm excited. And I did not ever expect to get involved with Philly in the playoffs to the degree that I am right now. But here we are. Let's go Eagles.
No, I guess looking back at that, I didn't really expect that either. But yeah, this is the last time the Eagles hit the road was the day before Christmas in that Cowboys game. So it's been a long homestand. They're well rested in their own beds. The Niners finally do have to travel cross country. 1 day, fewer days rest for them as well. So it's
early kickoff.
I tend to agree, but not to the extent that you do.
Okay.
I'm not fully out. I'm not fully out to like a 3.
You're not out to a 3?
No, I have a Philly -2 and 2.25-ish at this point.
That sounds like the kind of number I would make for a regular season matchup. I have a meaningful home field advantage.
What do you do with your home field? You jack it up. So I jacked mine up to 2.2 for this.
Okay.
That's with home field jacked up.
Okay.
I still have the Niners.
You're basically saying these two teams are dead even on a neutral.
Yeah. Looking at it, it's the difference is in the hundreds.
Okay.
For me right now.
Okay. I will say this to Charles's comment: the Eagles get the best schedule in NFL history. It ended up being a lot tougher than it was going to be at the start of the season, just because the NFC East ended up being a lot more live. There were much better teams than we realized, and they had to play them all twice. So they are somewhat battle tested, more so than Brock Purdy is. Surely, I mean, Brock Purdy's biggest win was last week, and I don't know, was that because of him? I don't think so. All right, the other game is the one where I feel like I'm taking fucking crazy pills. What is going on with this market? Who has the information and is not telling us? Because as we sit here today, this moment, 4:30 on a Pacific on a Monday, the market is pricing 80 to 90% chance that Chad Henne is going to be the quarterback, not Pat Mahomes. There is no other way to kind of come to, square this market than Mahomes is not playing at this point in time. Are we being fed some sort of psyops here and the real move on the Chiefs is coming later in the week? Or Is the information just out there and we have not been privy to it? I keep checking the DMs, man. And
yeah.
I don't have the goods right now. Circus taking 30K, bookmakers only taking 10. But at this point, they've moved so much that they've probably got at least mid six figures on the Bengals in this game, just kind of looking at the way the prices moved.
No adjustments to my Cincy number. No, like this is, I haven't done anything with anything from the beginning. I have my beginning of the playoff numbers. So let's pretend we don't have to downgrade anything since he's doing for the offensive line, and Mahomes is healthy. 4.5 in Kansas City.
I like that.
With playoff home field. So what would you, let's say Mahomes is healthy, the Bengals are, what do you make this number in Kansas City with, give them 2.5 home field, whatever you want?
I'm kind of between 4.5 and I'm between 4.5 and 6. Yeah. And some of it just comes down to the offensive line and how much you think that matters. Yeah.
Single person we talk to says if Mahomes is full go, full healthy, this is 6.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so is, or at least north of 4.5, which at that point you might as well be at 6.
Yeah. That's basically where I am.
Is Mahomes to hobbled Mahomes worth 6 points? I don't think so, based on what I saw in the second half and what they were able to scheme with him, even being a little immobile. So, I mean, again, this number to me screams 80% Henny.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be 80% of the time it's Henny. And at this point, there's places that have Bengals -2. So we could say there's an 8-point difference between where this could be, should be, would be, and where it is. So, and yeah, to be fair, Cincinnati with the win, that would have taken a bet. I doubt that books would have opened it near 6. Like I think
4.5 is probably
4.5 would have been a good opener. I mean, you guys
my 4.5 would have been a good opener, but I would have been struggling. Like, do I lay the 4.5 with Kansas City all week? That would have been where we were at.
Yeah. So and it is weird because immediately everyone just accepts the fact that Patrick Mahomes will play because he played in the second half. And
Andy Reid said he was today. And
Andy Reid would never lie to you guys.
What? So is he have a history of lying?
Yes, he's a known liar.
Is he?
Remember when he jumped through that brick wall?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You said it for me. No, so yeah, and here's the other thing. Henny is a very capable backup who has got ice water in his goddamn veins. He came in there cold and looked just fine.
He did it to the Browns too.
He's not going to do anything magical like Mahomes does, but he's a very good backup. So this is a very puzzling conundrum, and I think the people who bet real money into this market have already decided it's Henny. So my question is, if it were to be announced Wednesday, Patrick can't do it. Ankle looks like a goddamn bowling ball. Thing is swollen. He can't even put socks on, guys. He's struggling. His stupid brother's at his house and he can't get off the couch. He's dying right now. He can't play. It's going to be Henny. Is there an overreaction in the market when everybody goes like, "Oh my god, I didn't get Bengals yet. I got to grab -2."
Yeah.
And are we thinking that you should get Chiefs +3, +3.5 is a good number with Henny? Like, am I going too far the other way?
No, it is.
I kind of think getting 3.5 with Henny is
if you
fine.
think that, so some of the professional because okay, no, we are not the end bosses of the information game. We get a lot before market, but not at all. Okay, do not interpret this the wrong way when I say there is no information right now to be had that Mahomes is not going. Okay, no one has even bubbled this, right? Which means this professional move is somewhat speculative. But considering how liquid this market is, if you could potentially get a middle on 3, I think you take the risk. If you could potentially get a middle on 47, I think you take the risk.
And that is the other part. And I don't know if I said this on the air, or if I said this before we got live. the fact that when it comes out, the total will drop.
Yes.
If it comes out, the total will
44.
drop. So
Yeah, 44 and a half.
A move from like 1.5, 2 to 3.5 is worth something. But a move from 1.5, 2 to 3.5 is worth more when the total is dropping. So the fact is, yeah, like I think what Drew's trying to say is if you really want to get cute with this, you're taking the Cincinnati -2 and you're taking KC +3, +3.5, and having a very, very sexual middle on that. And then also taking the under 47 and then over 44.5.
Yeah.
And having a 45, 46, 47 middle.
Yeah.
Like Chris is now at 1.5 Bengals. You can get 10K there. I know that their limits are still lower on that game comparatively too. And I will say this too. Books are taking money, but they're not taking the money they should be, because you can currently bet 3 times as much on the on the side of the Niners Eagles game than you can on the Bengals KC game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 30K available at the moment at Circa. 10 at Chris. If you wanted a 6-figure position, you could get it.
Randy said, "What would you do if you had a 51?" I think you can still wait. I don't know if it's. I mean, if you wanted to middle it at this point,
if you have under 51, I think you're in great shape.
Yeah, hopefully that's what he's doing. I'm gonna feel bad putting you on. I wasn't putting you on blast if you have an over 51.
No, I think some of this is
a good number grabber. I feel like yes.
I think a lot of this is speculative, trying to capture middles. And under, I think under, by the way, is probably a good bet anyway, even if you had a healthy Mahomes out there.
I don't know if I didn't mention that, but when you were talking about it, I haven't bet anything, but I do lean to the under again in the Eagles game. So I kind of like both unders.
I like both unders too. Let's see here. I mean, if you get a text that says Mahomes is out, what's your move?
I'm taking Cincy -2 and then waiting.
And then coming back for the middle, right?
Coming back. Yeah, probably even though it's been beat up, probably taking an under 47.
If we are psyopsing ourselves right now and we take Cincy minus whatever as a means of capturing a middle, and we are the ones holding the bags as we wake up and KC gets steamed to oblivion, what is your move?
Just sitting on it. You take your lumps. What did I do when I had a bad number on the Bills Dolphins? Sat on it, took my lumps. If it moves the other way, you mean? You sit there and you hope that that Andy Reid's being a absolute knob, and they start a Patrick Mahomes who's not clearly ready to be starting a game. He looks bad, and the Bengals go to another Super Bowl. Like that's kind of what you hope happens, I guess.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm gonna be sitting and waiting for some concrete news from somebody on something here.
Right now, the afternoon weather forecast in Kansas City calls for 22 degrees, mostly cloudy, breezy, and cold with a snow shower. Feels like 6 degrees, about 55% chance of precipitation. 15-mile-an-hour winds, 27-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Is under 47? Yeah, is under 47 gonna get? Is that gonna get thunderfucked regardless of the Mahomes stuff?
I mean, it's already leaning to 46.5 at Chris.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna make a bet right now. And this is if anybody really, really wants to see Patrick Mahomes this weekend, come back to this moment. 1 hour, 18 minutes, and 35 seconds into the game. I'm going to bet the late number. I'm going to take the worst of the numbers so far and bet a small stake on under 147. I bet that would get there. Under 47 -15 right now. I didn't even shop. Just that's how little I care. So, yeah, let's see. Yeah, and more snow to help the Bengals offensive line. That would be advantage Bengals again. Is that why people are betting the Bengals?
Because the offensive line looked competent yesterday.
Yeah, I can get a under 47 minus.
I think there's
05
that. I think
low
look,
vig. We'll take that.
I do think that the Bengals were going to be the more attractive side to players because of the recent history. 3 wins in a row against this team, beating them in the AFC Championship game last year. But that doesn't come anywhere close to the price shift you're seeing because we are so far off market.
Yeah, like, and I mean, a couple of people instantly hit us with 6 would get hit. Yeah, we don't believe that the market should have ever opened 6, but it's again if it opened 4.5 and like the sentiment pushed it either way, like it doesn't take much to go from 4.5 to 6. And then I'm sure it would have got snapped up with people taking Cincy at that point, but like it probably would have been a bounce between 4 and 6 all week with people, that powerful 5. And it's crazy because we are, I mean, even let's just say it's 4. We are 6 points off that right now. Yeah. So that really screams something is going on. And it sucks because, I mean, just I'm a fan of the NFL first and foremost.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it stinks to have great players out, except when you have Jags money line. Didn't work, but
yesterday, I'm sorry, never mind. I was just gonna say, so yeah, my numbers with a healthy Mahomes. I'm trying to pull up my money line price for what I would have had Kansas City in that one. I had 73% win for Kansas City. If we had no information besides the 2 teams that advance are Kansas City and Cincinnati.
The Queen City, they call it. Wouldn't that be something? 2 straight Super Bowls for the Bengals would be not what I predicted 2 years ago.
Has Joe Burrow ever not covered a playoff game in high school or college?
It's just one of those things where he's like, "I was never lost on a Saturday."
I don't know. Has he ever lost on a Saturday? I don't think so.
That was the T-Law thing, which was super predictive. Right up there with the Jefferson stuff, guys. All right, let's call it a pod. This is a pretty good one.
All right.
Do we need to do Wednesday pod?
We're going to tread a lot of the same ground on Wednesday. You know what we'll do it to start Wednesday? Let's talk about the potential Super Bowl matchups and storylines that would come out of them and what you think about that sort of stuff.
And, we've both been doing some DMing and texting. Let's do a quick rundown of the where we think the 3 awards that aren't decided sit.
Okay.
That's a fun one because next Thursday we have that award show, I think.
Aussie Open Talk.
Or 2 Thursdays. It'll be a while.
Nobody's beating Sabalenka and Djokovic. Sorry, guys. It's over.
Yeah, it's Korda maybe. All right, yeah. Randy Mitchell brings up a good point. 115 people are watching this. Only 18 thumbs up. And you know what? If you are listening to this in podcast form, go to YouTube, pull up the BetSports Media channel, give it a thumbs up. Let's correct that. And with that, yeah, let's call her a day, guys. We will be back eventually, and I'm excited for Super Bowl MVP talk too, Patrick. Surprised you only put that in the chat once.
Who Nukes have?
Nukes did a Pagula Pliskova parlay.
Pagula Pliskova, okay.
I mean, Lynette's fine, but